I'm not matching profiles, I'm matching people.
How far are you willing to go to become you? I'm asked that same question every morning. The connection has been lost to each other and to ourselves. Toxicity continues to rise while self-worth continues to fall. This was created out of sheer necessity, the desire to create change and curve the culture back to connection. My journey has rerouted my idea of who I'm becoming. Connection begins within, continues outward. Love you, then love me, in that order. If I'm about to get uncomfortable, then so are you. I'm learning who I am. Now I want to get to know you. Connection over convenience.
We tried this once before, and it was hell of a podcast. I think it was quite raw, and the podcast never saw the light of day.
Right.
Yep.
We have to wonder why.
I guess the podcast was not meant to be released. Gone. Anybody listening? We did this like 2 months ago, and the file was completely corrupt. And it was a hell of a podcast.
It was a very intense conversation.
Yeah, our first one, and you said it all.
Yeah, and at that point, we hadn't really talked at all. Before that, we didn't really.
Very little.
Yeah.
And
it kind of all came out.
Yeah, you just we dove in and you just like, and literally the file did the same thing. It was like,
right,
gone.
Right.
So we're gonna try this again. Maybe it's gonna be a different story this time.
Yep, I have no idea what's coming out this time.
What's been going on the past 2 months now?
The past 2 months, a lot has been going on.
Yeah.
So I started my coaching business actually the weekend that I was here. And so that's been keeping me really busy, and that's been going really well, making me really happy that I feel like I'm finally able to use all the lessons that I knew I was collecting along the way, and putting them into one place and being able to offer them to other people. And so that is, in the midst of everything that I've gone through, I've always thought I wanted to be able to use what I was learning to help somebody else.
Why now? Why now you decided to launch it?
Because now, after kind of the last series of lessons learned, I finally feel like I've come into myself. I finally feel like I've found myself. And I couldn't share. I mean, I've always been sharing things along the way with friends and, people that I've talked to, but I didn't feel whole at the time. And this is the first time where I feel whole, and I feel like I can give from this place.
This is really the first time.
It's totally different.
In your life where you feel whole?
This is the best I've ever been in my life. This is the first time I've ever felt whole on my own. I've always been looking outside of myself and finding distractions to not look inside myself. And I finally slowed down, did a lot of work on myself, and for the first time I can say I love myself, I'm proud of myself, I can see everything more clearly now, and that's what I want to share. So before it was more of the lessons, but now I feel like I want to share kind of how I got to this point.
How did you get to this point? How did this all start?
Going way back, which is, kind of what we did last time, is I was in a very, I was about to say I was in a really happy marriage. So at that point, I had a husband that I loved desperately, 3 beautiful kids. We had a really beautiful little life together. And it was everything that I wanted. It was all that I needed at that point. And about, so now it's been 2012. My husband then we lost our business, and he was charged with a felony and went to prison for a year. And so our lives were completely destroyed. We moved our family from the small, safe town where our kids had grown up to back to Buffalo, where my family was. There was a huge cultural difference there. It was very difficult for all of us for a lot of reasons. So that was the beginning of the break of everything that I had known and the beginning of the rebuilding of the new life that I have now. But it was a long time in the making. And for years, I was in a survival mode, really just working to put food on the table and working to just keep everybody afloat. And, that took us to about 2016 when we came back to Connecticut, which started a whole new set of circumstances. And in the last 3 years that we've been back, so many more things have happened and new relationships. And the last relationship that I was in really cracked everything wide open. So that is, I thought that the end of my marriage was the catalyst, but actually the end of this shorter relationship really showed me that there were patterns in my behavior, there were patterns in my relationships, there were patterns in me that I needed to figure out if I didn't want them to keep happening. And that's where the real changes happened. So that was within the last year.
Been a hell of a year since.
It's been a crazy year.
Yeah.
And that to me, because I've always, we've struggled with moving and money and, all kinds of things. But for me, the emotional part has always been the hardest. The heartache of it has always been the hardest part. I've always said I'd take money issues over heartbreak any day. And the last relationship that I was talking about, I really thought that I had been searching ever since my marriage ended. I had been searching for a new relationship. That's what
it was your job.
It was my job. It's what I spent all my time on. It was all my focus, all my energy. I would leave my kids home at night so that I could go out because I didn't want to miss an opportunity to meet somebody when I should have been home with my kids.
When you're searching for a relationship like it's your job, it's going to leave you unemployed.
Yeah. Yes, I was unemployed, just so unsatisfied, and I was just on I was just, my energy, I was just going and going and going. It was nonstop.
You're on a mission to find a relationship.
Yeah.
Yeah. I've done the same.
It
the past, yes.
It was awful. And I knew it was awful at the time, but I didn't know that I was looking for the wrong person. I needed to be looking for myself. I didn't know it. And so that is the message that I got when I started to learn about my patterns and myself. Every book that I read would go back to taking care of yourself. I didn't even know what taking care of yourself meant. I literally Googled what is self-care, and I didn't know at the time. It was like, is it just hot baths and like going for a massage? But it's really about speaking your truth and, emotionally taking care of yourself, getting rid of people in your life that aren't healthy for you, and doing the work and journaling and therapy and all of those things are really the self-care that I needed. And luckily I found it because I really found myself.
The unfortunate thing is so many are avoiding all of the inner work. via distractions, whatever that may be, but anything to distract them from actually spending the time to do the work, the self-work.
It's hard.
Self-care.
It's so hard. And, I have a job and I have kids and I have to be able to do all those things. And when you do the work, or when I do the work, it's really hard, and it is draining emotionally and energetically. It's draining, and I'm in kind of a depressed state at the time, and so it's hard to do life while you're doing the work sometimes. And but I didn't have a choice. I really didn't have a choice. And so every day I was reading and journaling and doing inner child work that I had kind of heard about but never really understood, and it always sounded a little odd, a little bit too far out for me. Although I've tried lots of far out things, but that was where I got the messages of what the real issues were: a fear of abandonment from childhood, fears of not being good enough. And all of those things played out in my relationships. So I wouldn't let go of a toxic relationship because I didn't want to be alone. I would rather have something that I knew wasn't healthy.
But you knew what it was
going.
Yes.
Yeah.
You knew what to expect. As bad as it was,
there was a part of me that even knew that as it was happening, but I still couldn't break away. I was seeing someone at one point, and I said, as soon as I am healthy, I am so out of here. I mean, I said that to him.
Yeah.
I was aware, but I couldn't break away. And that's, a lot of what I learned was codependent behaviors. And then from the codependent behaviors, there's a whole love addiction thing that I had no idea of. And it sounded so stupid to me. But I've really identified with that. And there's a lot of unhealthy behaviors that go along with a love addiction, of just looking for the relationship for validation and needing that relationship more than anything else.
Just to fill that void.
Yeah. And it never did. It never could.
It can't now. Because it's external. It's not internal. You're searching externally for something that needs to be filled internally.
Yeah. And so I've been learning about it, and now I'm seeing it. It's very clear to me. It's hard to not see things, and that's the hard part about doing the work too.
You have to be accountable for your own actions, and it's hard to you want to avoid, even if you recognize something, holding yourself accountable for it, and that's the hard part, because that's where you have this ego, and you don't want to. I mean, you don't want the ego wants to win, of course, right?
Right.
But you have to put that part aside and say.
But once you can't. It's a choice at that point. It's a choice, knowing I'm about to do this as a distraction, instead of just doing it. And so there's definitely more accountability, and it makes it harder.
Think of where your life would be had you not a year ago stopped everything and said, I need to start the work. I mean, your life would have carried on in the same patterns.
It wouldn't have
we'd
changed.
Repeat it over and over again.
Yeah. I would have absolutely picked the same person.
Different name, same person.
Different name, yeah, absolutely. Because I was looking for all the wrong things. And so even though I had that level of awareness, and even I dated somebody else that I said, I knew it was unhealthy. I just didn't have the words for it. That's the thing. That this whole journey, this recent journey, and this recent, all the stuff that I've learned has just given me words, and it's given me the ability to articulate what I'm feeling, what I've been through and why. And it's made me understand it's not just me, and it's not just that I'm weak or that I'm, whatever a failure in relation to whatever it is, that there are reasons for it, and that I'm definitely not alone in it. That was a huge thing for me.
We're surrounded by, you're never alone. We're surrounded by many, many people that are going through the same. The difference is what you choose to do with it. And a lot of people choose to, put the blindfold on and the distraction and not choose to do the work. And it's easier for people to just kind of carry on in the life that they know, even if it's toxic and it's not, they're so unhappy, but that's what they know.
Right.
As opposed
There's a
to
comfort in it.
It is a comfort
I
zone.
recognized that at one point too, that I was actually comfortable in a toxic relationship because that was all I knew.
Yeah.
And so I had to find a new level of what comfort was. And so now that's intolerable. Where before it was what was attractive to me. It was why, a friend of mine, we would, see or know someone and I would be attracted and they would, he's an ass. Like,
yeah.
Why? They could never understand because there was something familiar about that for me. So that's totally changed for me now.
What a hell of a year.
Yeah. So I'm, at this point now, I'm able to share it with my kids too. So I'm able to point out patterns in the family and in dynamics and in my own life that they've watched and they've seen. And so I'm hoping that it helps them in their relationships with themselves and with their, they're all in relationships themselves. And so we've talked about why they're choosing people and the experiences that they've been through in actually having, their father away for that period of time and how that affects them and the fact that I was away for a period of time just emotionally because I was so consumed with my own grief and trauma and searching again outside for myself that I wasn't home for myself and I wasn't home for them. And that's had an effect on them.
Yeah. I mean, you were essentially in prison along with your ex.
Yeah. Emotionally.
Mentally, emotionally. And
just distracted. And so that, learning about how childhood wounds play out through your life, I can see the wounds I've inflicted, not intentionally, of course, but just, in life. And so it's opened up lots of conversations that I could have never had with my kids before. I feel like I'm absolutely closer to them on a whole new level than ever before.
With the healing and the transformation comes magical things. I mean, your life does look completely different now. And now what you chose to do with it is to work with others who have gone through similar things or are currently going through things.
Yeah, and it's so common, the things that, especially codependency, I mean, there's nobody that I really can talk to where that doesn't come up. But a lot of people aren't aware of it. And so, and I ended up working with more men than women. I really thought I would women would identify with me more and it'd be women going through divorces or career changes because I've done all of that. And so, but so far more men have, and I just wonder, is it that there's not a safe space for them to talk and to share and also have someone be honest with them. And so a lot of the conversations that I have are just being brutally honest with yourself and others. Because it's much easier not to be.
It's a really interesting time in relationships today. I'm fascinated by it. But it's very interesting of what's going on in the relationships and in the dating world.
Right.
I'm completely lost connection.
It is, when I was online dating, it was the worst experience ever. It was horrible. It was depressing. It was partly a game. It was a total distraction. There was nothing good that came of it, honestly.
It's the feeling of they're only a swipe away. So, if you do with 999 swipes, well, guess what? That 1,000, they could be on the other side of it.
Yeah, it was like
That 1,000 person,
gambling.
it wasn't the right. Well, that 1,000 and one, the next one.
Right.
It's an
That's
addiction.
why I love what you're doing, because the connection over convenience. I mean, connection over convenience. I love it because there is no connection on that platform at all.
No. It's what I'm seeing now, and I'm been inside the apps, and people are all the users are telling me, that, they'll tell me all the things that they hate about it. They can't stand the online dating. And these are people who are telling me inside the dating apps of how awful it is.
Right.
And then in the next paragraph, they'll tell me essentially to go fuck myself because I'm providing an offline matchmaking service and actually taking, relationships offline. So
Because you're asking them to change.
I'm asking them to change, and
Right.
and changes is not easy.
Right.
So they'd rather, just as you described, live that life. What they know, even though they know it, they literally, in own words, just told me how awful it is, and they can't find a relationship, and all the most awful things they list. But that's what they know, and they don't want to try something else.
Right.
They're stuck in that mindset.
Right. Well, that's,
It's a cultural change.
right. And people have to be ready and willing to make a change. Otherwise, they're going to keep repeating the same,
Yeah.
the same patterns.
Yeah. I mean, it's like one person at a time. It's
Right.
not like, a button where you hit and all of a sudden everything changes. I mean, that's all they know.
And it takes so much time to get to know someone, to really get to know someone. And so, after I'm in a lot of online support groups, and so there are a lot of stories about toxic relationships and dating apps, and stories about like conversations that they have in the apps.
Yeah.
And they put these screenshots out there, and they're like, well, what do you think? Does this sound? And everybody else can say, are you kidding? Like, run,
Yeah.
But the people who are in it are just so
Because
unaware of
they're
it.
desperate. They need that relationship.
But I know I did that too.
Yeah.
I mean, I look at some of those conversations, and I think a year ago, I would have been absolutely swipe right on that.
Great, because I have somebody to talk to. They're talking to me.
Yes.
There's validation. We're
Yes.
closer to a relationship.
I didn't know they were saying the same thing to every,
copy and paste
Yes, I had no
27,000 other
idea.
people.
Yeah, it was.
Relationships are not built on convenience, and people are in this mindset right now where they think the convenience of these apps that they're going to find the person.
Right. But I also think that the connection with the people is missing, but I think the connection to themselves is
That's what it
missing.
comes down to.
Right.
Yep.
Because somebody wouldn't read those messages and need them so badly if they had a strong self. So I needed that message to say, you're beautiful, and whatever it was, I needed that. Yeah. And so I was like, oh, well, yeah, I mean, this sounds great. Let's keep going. And it never, it always went south within, a very short time. But I needed that. I needed that validation, and I needed it over and over again. So that's coming, I think a lot of that whole online dating culture is coming from a disconnect to self.
Yeah, the connection to self has been lost.
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, did online dating highlight that, or has, what came first? I don't know. But all I know is what I can see today, what the problem is. And it's very consistent across the board of the majority, not everybody, the majority of people who are online, that is them. They're missing the connection to themselves. However, you have many people also who have a true connection to themselves and actually want a real relationship of substance. Mm-hmm. They want true intimacy, and they're kind of stuck in there because everybody that they're meeting is just wasting their time.
Right.
And so it's a fucked up system right now.
Yeah, absolutely. It is. And people, aren't meeting people in person because a lot of people aren't, a lot of people are working crazy hours. They're not out. They're not socializing anymore.
Yeah.
So there's not opportunities for people to meet like, years ago. So
Interesting
makes
time.
it harder. Yeah, it's very, and there's nobody that you talk to who says, "Oh yeah, I love on." I've never heard a person say they love it.
It's almost everybody says they hate it.
Everybody.
And yet,
I mean, I have a friend that met somebody online and they've been together for over a year. It's great.
yep,
But that is so rare.
yep, that's the minority. I mean,
So
think
rare.
of it's a $3 billion industry. That's the rarity because I think
Yeah.
only 20% actually of that start relationships out of
Right.
So if you do the numbers,
I mean, if I wish I had the numbers. I wish I knew how many times I swiped on that thing.
yeah,
I wish I knew how many dates. I mean, I went on a ton of dates. I wish I knew how many conversations. That's what I wish I knew. I wish I knew how many conversations I had. And I wish I could see some of them because there was some gold in there.
what was it like once you go on the date with these people? Just wasn't.
It was just never. It was just, I don't know. I just never had a really, I mean, there were times when I liked somebody and then they didn't call me back. There were times when they liked me and I, wasn't interested.
Yeah.
It just never really worked out. But, I mean, I didn't have any like horror stories or anything like that, but nothing.
The way I describe it is almost like in the casino of like the slot machine where like you have to line up like the 3 cherries or whatever it is.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
Like, it's like it never 3 line up, but you think the next swipe,
Yes,
the 3 may line up, and that's what everybody. It's an addiction.
right.
It's no different than a casino.
Absolutely, it is absolutely that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. No good.
Fuck the gambling.
Yeah.
So what is the future for you now with Choose?
Well, I am practicing what I'm preaching right now in a new relationship, and I can see all of it really clearly. I can see where my old patterns come up and where I have to remind myself of what I've learned, and I have to constantly remind myself to take care of myself first and to keep myself in line. So it's interesting. It's really interesting. I mean, it's fascinating.
It is. Would you say it's a healthy relationship?
I would, but I question it all the time. And I am lucky enough that I'm able to talk about it and bring up whatever I'm thinking about, and it's received well. And so, that's what makes it a healthy relationship, is that I can talk about it, and it's a conversation. It's not just me.
And with your partner, you're able to have these conversations.
Right. Yeah, that's what I mean. I mean, that for me, that's what makes a healthy relationship, is that we're both going to come in with issues. But if we're both self-aware and able and willing to work on them, and then, work on our own issues, work on issues together, then that's really all I want. And right now I have that. So it's not easy. I don't want to say anxiety provoking, but it is in a way because because it's new to me. It's like riding a bike, like with shaky legs. It's like, I know how to do it. And if I keep going, I'm good, but I'm afraid I'm going to fall. And so it's fascinating to me.
It's a lifetime in the making.
Yeah.
It seems that, the self-love piece has been missing for the entire life.
Right.
And now it's something that's
yes.
newly
so it's
discovered.
a practice.
Yeah.
It really is a practice. And, last week I was out every single night. I had something going on every night, and I realized I wasn't taking care of myself. I wasn't setting boundaries. I wasn't, so it's definitely a work in progress. but what I feel like is I know where that center is now. I know what that feeling is like, and I won't get too far from it. And I know how to get back to it, and so I feel really good about that. And this relationship makes me feel like I'm able to put into practice what I've learned. So
It's a lifetime.
we'll see.
You're
I mean,
a student of life,
right? It's all, every day is a new day. So
isn't it amazing what life looks like now, though?
it's amazing.
Right?
Yes.
I mean, your energy must be so different today because it's exhausting of
No,
yesterday of
I can't even get enough right
Yeah.
now. Like, I just am I feel like I'm just starting my life over. I feel like I'm just starting to live. And, and I was actually talking to my son about this the other day, and I said, for all that we've been through and for everything, I'm really happy. I'm happy with the life that we have, and I'm really excited about everything.
I think I'm most fascinated by is the victim mentality and the things that happened in your past. You could have lived in that victim mentality.
Yeah.
I'm a victim.
I tried it out.
Yeah.
I definitely tried it out, but it just didn't feel good at all. I mean, it was easy. I could have
Of course,
easily.
that's the easy thing to do.
People.
They're stuck in that moment of time.
Yeah, I mean, people would say, "I don't know how you sleep at night. I don't know how I don't know how you're." So I could have easily played it, and I probably did. I mean, I'm sure I did at different points, probably more than I realize, and probably longer than than I think. But I always just felt like I needed to. I needed to learn something from it. I tried to look at it that there was something to learn from it more than being a victim of it. And that's what I do now. And that's gotten easier. So when something, doesn't work out, I am able to, maybe not right away, but very quickly look at it for the opportunity and what I'm going to learn from it, even though it's hard.
But that's the best things are hard.
Yeah.
And the greatest things are on the other side of whatever that might be.
Right. Well, I mean, really what we're talking about this whole time are the tragedies in my life. Those are the things that created the most growth for me. I'm not coming up with memories about an amazing part of my life that taught me anything.
We're talking about the darkest times probably of your life.
Yeah. And those are
the best, not the best times, but
yeah, absolutely.
What's the best way to get a hold of you? If anybody who's interested in speaking with you and learning more about what
I have
you
a
do.
website, kathyleckey.com. So everything is on there. And I have a closed Facebook group for women. And there's hundreds of women in there that are able to and willing to be super honest and have conversations and share with each other in that group. And it's a really beautiful place. I'm on Instagram under the Choices We Make, which is open to everybody. But the Facebook group, there's something really cool happening in there. And so I'm excited to watch that grow. People have been inviting friends and family and their daughters and their mothers. And so it's really what I love is seeing the different generations. So I work with some younger women, and the same messages that they need to hear are the same messages that, my mother who's in her 70s needs to hear and wants to hear. And so we're all kind of on the journey, and it's
a huge support group.
It's really cool.
Yeah, I love it. I mean, I love what you do. And the one thing I always ask you is, how's your energy today?
Yeah.
I'm always curious today, like in the moment, how I don't care about tomorrow or
I know,
yesterday.
I love that question.
Just in the moment.
Yeah.
And I feel that there's something so special, that the energy that you have. And, we talk offline, and I know you have this incredible energy to you. And I can't wait to see, I mean, you're just starting, you're just launching now to see what really is going to
Yeah, it's very exciting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I wish you the absolute best, and I support you in whatever you do.
Thank you. You have my support too.
Appreciate
I love what you're
that.
doing.
Thank you. Thank you for joining me today, and trying to do this podcast. Hopefully this made it to
Yes.
the recording. I guess we'll find out after the fact.
Yeah.
And if not, we'll do a third one.
All right. Thank
you,
you.
Kathy.
Thank you.